I'm an avoidant, and I'm going to expose what we feel like from the moment we lose you. And it's usually going to happen over 4 main phases. Now, this video would be pretty boring if I just focused on these 4 phases. So I want to do something a little bit different. See, in order to understand our crazy minds, you can't just stop at the 4 phases. Oh no. You need to understand the lie we tell ourselves during each one. And that's why I'm going to, of course, walk you through the phases and how they work, but I'm also going to show you how there's almost this inception-like lie that builds upon itself as the phases unfold until the very end, when something really unexpected tends to happen. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start with phase 1. We're going to immediately disconnect during the breakup. Now, I could give this very long, very drawn out, boring explanation, or I can just show you what another avoidant has to say about this. On the Avoidant Attachment subreddit, under a thread titled, "How do avoidants feel after a breakup?" there's this beautiful quote. "I left him because of his inability to connect, and he did stare at me as I cried that night." Seems kind of innocuous, right? Like, this person broke up with their avoidant because of their inability to connect. And I think the subtext we can read there is that they were very clearly hoping that the breakup would cause some type of a reaction. But it didn't. I believe their exact words were what? "He stared at me as I cried that night." So literally, on the outset of a breakup, as it's happening, this person's avoidant is disconnecting, removing themselves from the situation. And I'd say this is actually pretty common. I mean, let's just turn to page 117 of the book attached. All right, do you see this little gray area here? What does that title say? Some common deactivating strategies. Deactivating strategies, as in disconnecting. It's literally built into our system. But I'm not saying anything revolutionary here. Everyone who has done just the smallest bit of research on avoidance knows about the deactivating strategies. But what they don't know is that this disconnection happens right away. And maybe even an argument can be made that it's happening well before the person who broke up with the avoidant in the example. It ultimately ends up crafting a lie. And the lie is this: I'm fine. If you've watched any of my videos before, then you'll know that I talk a ton about this idea of a separation elation happening after a breakup. I would argue that this lie, this "I'm fine" narrative that they tell themselves, is what powers it. For as long as that lie is there to act as a crutch, they'll never seek reconnection. Now, speaking of reconnection, quick plug here, but if you want to sign up for group coaching with me every Thursday and get access to every course I've ever created inside of the Reconnection Room for a 50% discount, just a one-time payment of $97 for lifetime access, just simply click the link in the description you see below, and I'll hook you up. Phase 2 now is where things start to get interesting. This is where the death wheel starts to revolve. Ah, yes, the avoidant death wheel, the staple of a Chris Seiter YouTube video. Now, if you aren't familiar, the avoidant death wheel essentially describes this endless cycle where an avoidant craves connection, feels trapped by it, leaves, and then eventually misses what they lost. One of the things that I don't really see a lot of people talking about is how there are really 2 parts to the death wheel. There's the right half of it, which contains all the stages that play out in a relationship. And then, of course, there's the left half, which contains all those stages that play out post-breakup. I know this is getting a little confusing because the death wheel has all these stages, and I'm talking about these 4 phases, but bear with me here. Phase 2 is where we literally see the left half of the death wheel play out. More specifically, stages 5 through 8 of that death wheel start to get activated. What ultimately happens as they get propelled through that left side of the death wheel is that lie they tell themselves begins to evolve. See, in phase 1, the lie is pretty simple. Hey, I'm fine. Doing great. But just like gravity, the death wheel will do what it always does. We start thinking about you. We start remembering the good moments. We start feeling little flashes of loneliness. The problem is, we've already committed to the lie. So instead of abandoning it, we defend it. which means it's not going to get changed. It'll simply be added to. I'm fine becomes I'm fine. I just miss being in a relationship. Ah, yes. I'd like to draw your attention to the very last stage of the death wheel for this one. What does it say? Why can't I ever find the right person? Sounds like a thought you might have if you were guided by this lie now, doesn't it? Anywho, phase 3 comes along, and this is where the dam breaks. This is where the avoidant, at the end of their death wheel, is faced with the full brunt of their loss of you. One big caveat that I want to point out before we continue, though, is this is all assuming you haven't blown up their phone or begged for them back. This is assuming you have let go. I cannot tell you how often I'll talk to a client after they have a particularly difficult day where things haven't gone well for them, and they understandably want to blame me for their avoidant not reacting the way they want. Now, I'll be honest, when I first started coaching people back in 2016, I actually started the business in 2012, but didn't start taking coaching clients until 2016. I was a pretty big nervous wreck precisely for this reason. There's this weird pretend expectation that gets formed whenever someone signs up for coaching, that I'm supposed to deliver their ex back to them on a silver platter. And I, of course, was terrified of that because I can't ever promise that kind of success. Ever. So, what happens if I'm blamed for them failing? Will they come after me? Will they leave a bad review? The answer to those are yes and yes, by the way. But I've since learned that whenever a client gets really hurt by the outcome, all I really have to do is remind them that I advised them to do action X and instead they took action Y. Like, I'm sorry, but what did you expect? I tell you what I think will work and you didn't do it. Did you really think I was making my advice up? I'm always quick to remind these clients that it's not my job to force you to take action. It's my job to advise you in a way that will put you in the best situation to succeed. But if you ignore my advice at every turn, well, the results don't particularly shock me in that instance. And some of the clients, when I tell them this, they get angry, but most of them nod and apologize. Now, I took that detour because the hardest thing for my clients to do is give up on getting an avoidant back, even though I tell every single one that's what you got to do. Not because I don't think they can get the avoidant back. No, it's because I know that's exactly what will bring the avoidant back. Okay, so let's turn our attention back to that Reddit comment that I cited earlier, and I want to read the very next sentence. Weeks later, I got a long text with more emotion than I had ever seen in him. So this person literally breaks up with the avoidant, indicating the I'm giving up on you aspect that I'm always advocating for. They leave them alone for an extended period of time, something like a no contact rule. Phase 1 goes by for that avoidant. Phase 2 is next, and then the dam breaks. The avoidant has allowed their feelings to bubble to the surface. And what's fascinating about this is where the lie they were telling themselves kind of collapses upon itself. I made a reference to the movie Inception at the very beginning of this video. And let me just say that that was a very conscious choice. If you've never seen the movie, then slight spoiler alert. In Inception, the characters travel deeper and deeper into the layers of a dream. And the farther down they go, the more real the dream starts to feel. At a certain point, they aren't simply experiencing this illusion anymore. Their minds begin accepting the illusion as reality, and they can kind of get trapped there. Well, that's essentially what has been happening with the avoidant throughout all of these phases. The first layer of the dream is pretty simple. I'm fine. That's it. That's the foundation. Everything else is going to be built upon. But then the death wheel kind of starts moving. The avoidant begins to feel a little bit lonely. They remember your voice. They remember certain moments. They notice your absence in places where your presence used to be pretty automatic. And suddenly I'm fine. It's not really explaining what they're feeling anymore. But instead of waking up and admitting the truth, they are going to just double down and go a layer deeper. I'm fine. I just miss being in a relationship. All right, so we all see what happened here. The original lie didn't disappear. Another dream was built inside of it. Now, they can experience loneliness without admitting that they miss you. They can feel lost without acknowledging who was lost. They can preserve the original illusion while still explaining away the emotions that kind of keep slipping through. But there's a problem with going deeper and deeper into a dream. Eventually, it becomes unstable. In the movie Inception, when this dream begins rejecting what's happening inside of it, the entire world starts turning against the dreamer. Buildings start to collapse, streets fold in on themselves, the environment kind of begins breaking apart because the illusion can no longer hold. And that's essentially what happens here. The avoidant starts encountering feelings that the lie that they've been telling themselves just cannot explain anymore. If they only miss being in a relationship, why are they thinking specifically about you? Why are they replaying your final conversation with them? Why are they checking on social media? Why are they comparing new people to you? Why are they suddenly remembering things they had spent weeks trying not to think about? The dream, or more specifically, the lie, is beginning to collapse. So naturally, the avoidant doesn't try to wake up. They try to go one layer deeper again. I'm fine. I just miss being in a relationship, and maybe I need some closure. But I want you to look at how complicated that lie has become. It's full of contradictions. At first, it only needed 2 words. I'm fine. Now it requires an entire explanation just to survive. And eventually, even that explanation stops working because the feelings have accumulated. The distractions aren't distracting anymore. The relief they felt after the breakup is worn off. And if you've truly stepped away, there's nothing left reinforcing the fantasy that they can return whenever they feel like it. That is the kick. That's the moment the dream realizes it's a dream. The lie collapses under the weight of everything it was created to suppress. I'm fine becomes impossible to believe. I just miss being in a relationship becomes impossible to believe. I just need some closure becomes impossible to believe. And underneath every layer is the truth that they've been running from the entire time, which is that they miss you. Now, that doesn't automatically mean they're ready for a healthy relationship. It doesn't mean they've changed. Doesn't even guarantee that they're going to reach out. But it does mean the feelings they disconnected from during the breakup have finally found their way back to the surface, which is exactly what appears to have happened in that Reddit example. Weeks of silence, weeks of appearing unaffected, and then suddenly a long, emotional message containing more vulnerability than this person has ever seen from them before. Of course, your roller coaster with us isn't over yet. We still have one other phase, don't we? Phase 4. Usually, they'll start the whole thing over again. In the spirit of staying consistent, let's read the final sentence of that Reddit comment. We tried again. Things went right back to the way they were, rinse and repeat. I do think they started to feel, but it doesn't mean they've changed, at least not for me. So, this individual gets an avoidant back, but ultimately nothing has changed. A breakup occurs, and here they are leaving their Reddit comment. What are we to make of this? I mean, throughout this entire video, I've been talking about the lies that avoidants tell themselves. I'm fine. I just miss being in a relationship. I just need some closure. Every one of those lies eventually gets collapsed. But there's one more lie that they start telling themselves. And it only happens after they've been through those first 3 lies with the same person at least once. And it is perhaps the deadliest one. This time will be different.